A massive international sex trafficking ring is busted.
Suspects face a long list of charges, including promoting prostitution, unlawful imprisonment, and criminal content.
Also, child endangerment.
My administration is 100% committed to eradicating human trafficking from the earth.
4:30 a.m. A school in Minnesota is discovered to be concealing a criminal basement. A principal with a reputation for strict ethics betrays the trust of parents. 45 students are quietly drawn into a prostitution ring when they turn 18. 2.1 tons of heroin and fentanyl are moved silently across the United States. Do you want to know the truth they tried to hide? Press like. I will reveal everything. For nearly 2 weeks, the city of St. Paul, Minnesota lived under a state of constant tension. Following a shooting involving an ICE agent and a local woman, protests quickly spread from the city center into surrounding neighborhoods. What began as daytime gatherings escalated after just a few nights into prolonged unrest, marked by blaring sirens, security barricades, and the frequent presence of riot police on the streets. According to confirmation from local authorities, this escalation led to extremely serious disruptions in the daily lives of many students. Public systems began to fracture. More than 40 public schools were forced to change their schedules or temporarily shut down. Several bus routes were suspended. Student attendance dropped sharply, with many districts recording absentee rates exceeding 30% in a single day. Parents were advised to keep their children indoors after dark. In that environment, safety overtook education as the highest priority. It was within that vacuum that a more serious development quietly unfolded. Sejong Academy, a public charter school in St. Paul, shifted to online learning as unrest intensified. Nearly simultaneously, more than $7.2 million in taxpayer funds allocated to the school passed through operational accounts and then disappeared. Within minutes, the money was transferred into an opaque financial channel, later identified as being connected to accounts that had previously appeared in long-running investigations into prostitution and human trafficking. For FBI and ICE analysts, this coincidence could not be dismissed. The closure of schools, the chaos on the streets, and the fragmentation of oversight appeared far from accidental. What the public perceived as instability, federal investigators began to view as a layer of concealment. Early indicators pointed to the possible existence of an underground prostitution and human trafficking network valued at nearly $2 billion, exploiting civil unrest to erase financial trails and operate in silence. As chants echoed across the city and classrooms fell silent, a troubling question surfaced in internal federal discussions. Was this unrest truly the cause of the crisis, or merely a staged distraction designed to conceal a far greater danger tied directly to students? If you believe a powerful figure is operating behind these prostitution networks, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and comment "reveal" to follow the truth about whether students are involved. While the city's attention remained fixed on the streets, one figure stood untouched by suspicion. Dr. Ayaan Mohammed Ali, a 45-year-old Somali-born principal, had led Sejong Academy for nearly 8 years. To parents and city leaders, she symbolized discipline, order, and moral guidance. She enforced strict codes of conduct, spoke publicly about traditional values, and was widely credited with maintaining student discipline during a period of instability. In a city under strain, she was viewed as a stabilizing force. That perception was deliberate. It functioned as concealment. Federal investigators determined that the unrest did not obstruct her. On the contrary, it cleared the way. As police forces were stretched thin and public attention was drawn toward the chaos on the streets, the principal quietly activated a network that had been cultivated for nearly a decade. After public funds vanished without explanation, cybersecurity teams began tracing the flow backward. Their findings revealed not an isolated breach, but a coordinated prostitution system. The operation centered on a restricted access website hosted outside the United States and not visible through public search engines. Internally named Qualified Students, the platform imitated a private support service, complete with profiles, messaging, and payment records. Investigators determined it functioned as a recruitment and control mechanism. Access was limited to 45 legal adults over the age of 18, selected based on vulnerability rather than ability. Payments ranging from $7,000 to $10,000 were classified as support stipends. Each profile followed the same physical criteria: tall, thin, light-skinned, brown-haired. Those payments were only the bait. Financial records exposed parallel accounts linked to narcotics transportation inside the United States. Analysts traced 2.1 tons of heroin and fentanyl connected to the network's cash flow. generating an estimated black market value exceeding $400 million annually. These profits sustained the same control structure, the website, the accounts, and her silence. Then investigators uncovered the discovery that altered the case entirely. Behind the school, concealed by a corridor long labeled as storage, underground scans revealed a deliberately constructed basement. Not old, not accidental. Built within the last 4 to 6 years. Soundproofed, independently ventilated, reinforced doors, windowless rooms. This was where students were confined. This was where narcotics were hidden. This was the operational core of the prostitution network. The conclusion was chillingly clear. The riots were not coincidence. They were cover, used by someone powerful enough to understand chaos as camouflage. And by the time the city recognized what lay beneath it, enforcement mechanisms were already in motion. If you believe federal agents can shut this network down, comment "shut it down." Your support matters. As analysts completed the final connections between data points, there was no room left for delay. Every hour mattered. Every passing minute increased the risk that students would disappear into trafficking routes and never return. At 4:30 a.m., while most of the city slept under curfew, a convoy of more than 30 unmarked black SUVs moved towards Sejong Academy along streets deliberately kept dark. Inside the vehicles were 280 tactical agents from the FBI and ICE, supported by specialized cyber, financial, and medical units who had rehearsed this moment for weeks. No sirens, no flashing lights, speed was everything. By 4:40 a.m., perimeter teams had sealed off the surrounding blocks in under 90 seconds. Aerial units confirmed no visible movement from the main structure. When the first breaching charge was placed on the rear service entrance, the silence broke. The door gave way. More than 280 FBI and ICE tactical personnel entered floor by floor as armed guards inside the building opened fire almost immediately. The gunfight was brief, violent, and contained. Flashbangs detonated. Commands echoed through hallways that once displayed student artwork and attendance notices. Within 90 seconds, resistance on the upper levels collapsed. 7 suspects were wounded. None escaped. The real danger lay below. At 4:47 a.m., investigators located a false wall behind a maintenance corridor. Thermal imaging revealed clustered heat signatures deep within. Too many, too close together. The wall was breached. What lay behind it confirmed the worst assumptions. A purpose-built basement, segmented and soundproofed, stretched beneath the school grounds. Ventilation systems hummed. Independent electrical lines ran along the ceiling. The space was designed to disappear. Inside the first secured room, agents found 45 students unconscious, bound with identification numbers written directly on their skin. Subsequent toxicology tests confirmed the presence of fast-acting sedatives. Ages ranged from 17 to 18. No one could respond. Time had become the enemy. Medical teams moved immediately. Oxygen levels inside the enclosed space measured far below safe thresholds. Later toxicology reports confirmed multiple suppressive substances at concentrations that could have been fatal with only a few more hours of exposure. The youngest victims had only just reached adulthood. No one had been informed where they were being taken. As search units pushed deeper, a secondary discovery confirmed the scale of the operation. Behind a false firewall, agents uncovered over 1 ton of narcotics, heroin, and fentanyl packaged for rapid distribution. Conservative estimates placed black market value in the hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Nearby, vacuum-sealed cash was stacked in standardized blocks, with initial counts exceeding $80 million before dawn. At 5:02 a.m., escape attempts began. Dr. Ayaan Muhammad Ali was apprehended while attempting to move through a secondary basement corridor. She offered no statement. She did not resist. Around her, 16 associates were taken into custody and ordered to the ground. The system she had spent years building collapsed in minutes. As dawn broke, 45 young lives were pulled back from disappearance. Hundreds of millions of dollars in assets were frozen. A ton of narcotics was seized before reaching consumers. The building fell silent again, but the silence had changed. It was no longer concealment. It was an ending. For the agents on scene, there was no celebration. Only a brief pause, long enough to grasp how close the situation had come to becoming irreversible, and how easily the city's distraction could have allowed everything beneath that school to vanish forever. Continue watching this video if you support federal agents risking their lives to sever the arteries behind this network. When the last detainee was secured and medical teams began stabilizing the 45 students, the operation did not slow. It widened. Federal protocol dictated that a breach of this scale could not be treated as a single-site failure. By 5:22 a.m., parallel teams were already activating warrants tied to data pulled from the basement servers. What agents had stopped underground was only the visible end of a much longer chain. Inside a hardened equipment room, technicians recovered 9 encrypted storage devices concealed behind false conduit panels. Each device carried layered redundancies designed to wipe if removed improperly. Time mattered. Within 12 minutes, forensic specialists isolated the power feeds and cloned the contents. What emerged was not chaos, but order, logs, schedules, and identifiers maintained with professional discipline. Transaction maps revealed over 1,400 communications across a 12-month period, routed through offshore relays and domestic proxies. None used personal names. Instead, the system relied on numeric tags that matched the identification marks found on the student's skin. Every movement had a timestamp. Every handoff had a confirmation code. Analysts noted that the cadence never broke, even during nights of citywide unrest. The system had been built to operate while everyone else was distracted. As dawn approached, a second wave of resistance materialized, not inside the school, but beyond it. At 5:41 a.m., surveillance units detected 2 vehicles accelerating away from a secondary logistics node less than 3 miles from campus. The vehicles ignored roadblocks. A brief pursuit followed. Tactical units boxed them in within 90 seconds. No shots were fired. Inside, agents recovered $6.8 million in bundled cash, burner phones, and routing documents pointing to out-of-state destinations scheduled within hours. The scale forced a recalculation. Conservative estimates placed the network's monthly throughput at $70 to $90 million, combining narcotics distribution and trafficking services. Over a single year, that figure approached $1 billion. It explained the infrastructure. It explained the patience. It explained why nothing had been left to chance. By 6:10 a.m., Command authorized a citywide data freeze tied to associated accounts and shell entities. Within the first hour, 37 financial channels went dark. By midday, the number had climbed past 120. What had looked like independent flows collapsed into a single diagram, clean, deliberate, and deeply embedded. Yet the most sobering discovery was not financial. It was temporal. Logs showed that the next scheduled transfer was set for 8 a.m., less than 3 hours after the breach. Had the operation begun even slightly later, the basement would have been empty. The students would have been gone. The narcotics would have moved. The trail would have ended at sealed doors and plausible deniability. For agents on the ground, the realization landed quietly. Battles are often measured by seconds, but this one was measured by minutes that almost passed unnoticed. The unrest outside had bought the system time. The early breach took it back. As the sun rose, Sejong Academy looked unchanged from the street. Classrooms were still dark. Hallways were still silent. To anyone passing by, it appeared as it always had, a closed school waiting for calm to return. But inside the evidence trucks, the picture was unmistakable. What had been dismantled was not a single crime scene. It was a machine that thrived on routine, trust, and the assumption that no one would look twice. The fighting was over. The conflict, it became clear, had only shifted to records, to timelines, and to the uncomfortable question of how much had been allowed to happen before anyone intervened. As the evidence from Sejong Academy was cataloged and sealed, investigators reached an uncomfortable conclusion. The operation could not have survived on secrecy alone. It survived on permission. Not spoken permission, not written confessions, but the quiet kind, granted through forms, renewals, and approvals that never required anyone to walk down a stairwell or hear a locked door close. Within 48 hours, federal auditors began cross-referencing regulatory records connected to the school and its auxiliary facilities. What they found was a pattern that repeated with unnerving consistency. Routine inspections had been postponed 9 times over a 7-year period. Each postponement carried a justification. Staff shortages, public safety priorities, emergency redeployments. None were extraordinary. Together, they created a gap wide enough for anything to pass through. Permit renewals told a similar story. Facilities marked limited access were reauthorized every 12 months without a physical walkthrough. Environmental compliance reports were accepted with identical language copied year after year. In one case, a safety certification bearing a digital signature was traced back to an official who had retired 18 months earlier. The system did not notice, or did not ask. Financial oversight revealed even more. Analysts identified 62 transactions flagged by automated systems over 4 years for irregular routing or timing. Each flag was resolved within 24 hours, cleared by a supervisor with a brief note. No further action required. No follow-up interviews, no site visits. The sums were small enough to seem harmless. $12,000, $27,500, $49,900, always below thresholds that demanded escalation. Multiplied over time, those fragments added up to more than $11 million that moved without friction. None of the names tied to those approvals appeared in arrest reports. None carried weapons. None were present during the breach. Yet their influence was unmistakable. A compliance officer approved 31 restricted access entries without requesting logs. A contracted auditor certified inventory counts without reconciling discrepancies that exceeded 400%. A regional administrator authorized after-hours access codes for maintenance purposes that were renewed 14 consecutive times. Investigators described it as a chain built from ordinary links. Each decision, viewed alone, was defensible. Each signature appeared routine. But when aligned on a single timeline, the effect was undeniable. Every approval coincided with periods of increased underground activity. Every lapse aligned with expansion phases later confirmed by physical evidence. The most striking discovery came from internal correspondence recovered from mirrored servers. In message after message, officials deferred responsibility upward or outward. Outside scope, previously reviewed, handled last cycle. No one said yes to wrongdoing. They simply said no to looking closer. By the end of the week, 19 individuals across multiple agencies were placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Not for what they had done in secret, but for what they had normalized in public. The absence of scrutiny had become policy by default. For veteran investigators, many with decades in service, this was the hardest truth to accept. Criminal enterprises can be dismantled with warrants and arrests. Systems built on habit are harder to confront. They do not resist. They comply, smoothly, predictably, and without noise. What emerged from the review was not evidence of a conspiracy meeting in dark rooms. It was evidence of something more familiar and more dangerous, a culture that rewarded speed over verification and paperwork over presence. In that environment, a signature carried more weight than a question, and silence moved faster than accountability. The basement had been hidden underground. The protection that sustained it operated in plain sight. When news of the arrests reached St. Paul, the reaction was not immediate outrage. It was silence, a heavy, disbelieving pause that settled over neighborhoods that had trusted Sejong Academy for years. For many families, especially older residents, the school had represented stability in an uncertain city. It was where grandchildren were dropped off each morning, where rules were clear, where danger was assumed not to exist. Within 24 hours, federal hotlines began receiving calls. By the end of the third day, more than 2,600 reports had been logged. Parents, relatives, neighbors asking the same restrained question in different ways. Did you find everyone? Some callers referenced names. Others referenced dates. Many simply described a change, a child who had withdrawn, stopped answering messages, or suddenly received unexplained payments. Community centers filled quietly. There were no protests, no chants, just rows of folding chairs occupied by people over 60 years old, holding enrollment papers, attendance notices, and screenshots of routine school communications that now felt ominous. One grandfather brought a printed email dated 2 years earlier, confirming after-hours academic support. He had framed it as proof of diligence. Now he wondered what that phrase had really meant. Local officials attempted reassurance, but numbers undercut the words. Review teams identified at least 112 families directly connected to the 45 rescued students through guardianship, extended care, or financial sponsorship. Many had never been contacted by law enforcement before. Others had interacted with the school weekly. Trust had not been passive. It had been active, reinforced by routine and familiarity. For older residents, the shock cut deeper. Many had grown up in an era when schools were sanctuaries and administrators were unquestioned authorities. Surveys conducted by county outreach units showed that nearly 78% of residents over 60 believed the school was one of the safest places in the district prior to the arrests. That belief did not vanish overnight. It collapsed. The emotional toll appeared in small details. Attendance at neighborhood meetings doubled, then tripled. Counseling services reported a 340% increase in requests from caregivers over 55 within 2 weeks. These were not parents of young children. They were grandparents, aunts, uncles, people who had stepped in quietly to support family members, believing the system would protect them. Investigators noted another troubling pattern. Several families admitted they had noticed irregularities years earlier. Restricted access days, sudden policy changes, unexplained schedule shifts, but had dismissed them, not out of neglect, but out of respect. The school knows best, they had told themselves. That assumption, investigators concluded, had been the network's greatest asset. By the end of the month, Sejong Academy's enrollment records were no longer just administrative documents. They were evidence. Each name carried a weight beyond numbers. Each signature represented trust, placed and broken. The building itself. That meant over 3,000 school days had passed while the structure functioned undetected. For many residents, especially those over 60, that realization landed with force. It was not a momentary failure, it was a duration. The second question was scale. Analysts mapped 218 distinct data intersections, vendors, contractors, temporary staff, and service providers who had interacted with the school during that period. Most were legitimate, some were negligent, a small fraction were willfully blind. None appeared extraordinary on their own. Together, they formed a web dense enough to absorb scrutiny without breaking. Investigators summarized it plainly. When responsibility is divided widely enough, accountability becomes optional. Then came the question of warning. Automated systems had generated 74 alerts over 7 years. Irregular access hours, anomalous power usage, duplicate credential tokens. Each alert had been acknowledged. Each had been closed. No escalation followed. In internal reviews, the same explanation appeared repeatedly. Pattern consistent with prior cycles. Familiarity health remained closed. Its gates locked. Its sign unchanged. To passers-by, it looked like a school waiting to reopen. For the community, it no longer looked like anything familiar. What settled in was not panic, but a colder realization. The danger had not come from strangers or distant criminals. It had come from a place woven into daily life, protected by habit and belief. Older residents understood this instinctively. Many had lived long enough to see institutions fail before, but rarely so close to home. The aftermath did not bring comfort. It brought awareness. And with that awareness came a question that no official statement could answer. How many warnings had been quietly explained away? And how many people had paid the price for trusting what felt normal? In the days that followed, investigators realized the most difficult phase of the case was no longer operational. It was cognitive. The arrests were complete. The basement was sealed. The immediate danger had passed. Yet the investigation did not slow, because the evidence raised questions that could not be resolved with warrants or handcuffs. The first question was time. Records indicated that the concealed systems linked to Sejong Academy had been active for at least 9 years. Maintenance logs, digital certificates, and utility patterns converged on a start window that predated multiple administrations.